illegals in small boats have been trying to break into America. Just look at what Donald Trump is doing.
Order immediately halted all entry of illegal border crossers, of which there were many.
US Marines have secured the southern border
and began promptly returning the illegal trespassers back to the place from which they came.
In a world full of noise, finding the truth takes a warrior's insight. I'm Ryan Forrest, former Royal Marines Commando, breaking down the latest headlines with real-world experience and a tactical mindset. No bluff, no nonsense, just straight-up analysis from someone who's been there. If you're not subscribed yet, now is the time to pull the pin and join the ranks. Hit that button and stay sharp. You are listening to Warrior's Insight. Trump has proven that deterrents actually work. Now, Starmer's being urged to bring in the military to control our borders. Is that actually going to work? Let's figure this one out, troops together.
Keir Starmer should bring in the military to stop the invasion of Britain's borders by illegal immigrants. Just look at what Donald Trump is doing.
Hurrah. That's a Marine. That tash is that of a Marine, 100%.
US Marines have secured the southern border and a US Navy destroyer is patrolling the waters where illegals in small boats have been trying to break into America. Now, he's very publicly deporting people. And he's stepped up the rhetoric.
Order immediately halted all entry of illegal border crossers, of which there were many, and began promptly returning the illegal trespassers back to the place from which they came.
Right, so he's took a very stern approach to this. He's took a very, straight down the line type of decision on it. It's like, if you're illegal, you're gone. They've employed the US Marines to secure the south border. Secure the south border, and I get the terms are a little bit military-ish, but that border was wide open, wasn't it, for a long time? So the border's secured, and not my words, to stop illegals from coming in. Obviously got the waterway secure as well, with a vessel there to protect the shores. Yeah. I mean, it's working, right? That's one thing. Will that work in the United Kingdom? Well, we do have Royal Marines Commandos and the Royal Navy. We're pretty much surrounded by water, aren't we, guys? But they're coming in from one main area, that's the southeast. So, yeah, I'll get into this in due course.
Crucially, he threatened countries like Mexico with tariffs if they didn't stop illegal immigration, which forced them to use their own troops to police their own border. And the Trump administration has openly mocked people who refuse to be deported.
I'm not going back to Haiti.
Well, he's wrong. He's going back to Haiti. I tell him that.
He is. Anyway, what's happened? Illegal crossings are now down 82% at the southern border. That's the news of today. 82% drop in illegal crossings at the southern border.
Right, so statistics don't lie like that. I get you can manipulate certain statistics to suit certain agendas, yada, 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 but illegals have stopped. Now, there's two parts to this, really. There's the sensible option. Sense should normally coincide with legality, but it doesn't always. And then you've got the humanitarian option as well. Now, the issue with this is where do you draw the line, okay? Humanitarian issues, and then, people coming for, their escaping danger, all that kind of stuff. But in my opinion, probably few and far between are actually doing that. A lot of them are coming over to, seek the benefits of the country, to work, to make money, all of that kind of stuff. We've got a lot of crime as well taking place in the United States across that border from Mexico to America. And we're not generalizing with these things here as well, okay? I know it's a touchy subject for some people, but yeah, they've secured that border. Now, the title in question is, should Starmer do the same? Not for me to say, but what I will say is this. We've got a lot of people coming to this country illegally. Now, that is the key thing to remember here. We're not just talking about people coming to this country. Happy days. My wife just so happens to be an immigrant, all right? She came here the legitimate way. Their family spent thousands of pounds to get here from Mauritius. So I understand what it's like. My wife is an immigrant, all right? Came here the right way. We've got children now. So there's a right way to do things, troops, okay? And Mauritius has its own problems, trust me. So, yeah, it's a bit of a touchy subject for some. Some could argue that it could be a touchy subject for me. I've got no problem for it, all right? I think if you want to come here, do it the right way, do it the legitimate way. Yeah, I think we could utilise the military, actually. Getting to my point. Utilising them, not in the way Trump's doing, though. I'm not going to start putting Royal Marines on borders and stuff at Calais in France and then in Dover in the United Kingdom. I don't think that's the right way. I do think tariffs would work in some way, shape or form to stop them from coming from the countries that they're coming from. And I do think that we should patrol the waters, what powers we have to be able to actively stop them once they're in the water. That's a whole different kettle of fish, and it opens up a can of legal worms, troops.
The number of people trying to reach the United States by crossing the Darien Gap is down 99%. He's halted asylum applications. Deterrence work. 2.5 months or so of Trump and America is no longer being invaded. Here in Britain, we were told this from the Tories.
We're very clear we want to stop the boats.
Vote Conservative so we can stop the boats. To keep my promise to you, to stop the boats.
We were told this by Labour.
He promised that he would stop the boats this year.
I think the way to stop the boats is to smash the criminal gangs.
People crossing in small boats across the channel. We have to stop that.
I agree with him there, actually, troops. We have to look at the systemic problem behind individuals coming into the country anyway. It's gangs. Gangs are profitising, making money from this, okay? Making a lot of money. Incentivising them, coming through that way, controlling the gaps for them to go through and charging them a hefty price for it as well. It's not right. People shouldn't be profiting from this. So, agree with Starmer on this one. We should be tackling the gangs at source, from the source as well, which is probably elements of criminality within this country, certainly within other European countries as well.
So where are we today? The same day that it's announced in the United States, 82% fewer illegal crossings. As of today, right here in Britain, channel crossings are up 25% on the previous year. We have more migrant hotels under Labour. A Palestinian who called for all Jews to be killed before eventually being arrested following public backlash managed to get into Britain. A suspected people smuggler is currently living in a 4-star hotel in Kent. People from 70 different countries have broken into Britain in the last few years. Thousands of people are coming here on skilled worker visas and then just shock horror, claiming asylum. Thousands of illegals are working in the black economy, either in vape shops or washing cars. We are paying France hundreds of millions of pounds to essentially not stop the boats. Look, here's the difference. President Trump's America. Bring in the military, threaten tariffs, don't bother with international courts, remove the incentives, and stop processing any asylum claims.
I mean, that's a pretty simple solution when you think about it. Like, it's working. He's dropped the stats significantly. Simple approaches sometimes fail, don't they? When you look at things, think, well, maybe that won't work. It's too simple. No, let's secure the borders. Let's get a patrol boat out there. Let's stop the gangs at source. Stop funding people who's doing the wrongdoing, so to speak. Yeah, let's see it work. It's working, isn't it?
And the illegals stop coming. Keir Starmer's Britain. Come on in. We'll pay for your hotel or your social housing, your phone, your pocket money, driving lessons, medical bills, legal costs. We'll educate your kids for free. You can probably work for Deliveroo or a car wash, depending on whatever floats your boat. Donald Trump is proving that deterrents work. Britain currently has no deterrent. Let's get thoughts from our panel this evening. Daily Express.
Although I don't agree with the way he's putting it, I agree with the fact that there is no deterrent. You can't disagree with that. There is no deterrent. You can come here. You can come here illegally. We're proving that every single day. Come across the shore. Come. Yes, people are getting deported now. I understand that. I know that when you look into it. People are getting deported now. Long-winded process in some cases for certain individuals. Too long if you have criminals coming across our shores, people who are potentially violent or dangerous, spurting out, hate rhetoric online, yada, 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 with that individual who came the other day. These processes shouldn't take too long at all. It should be instant, really. But it's not. So I think the process needs to change slightly. Process definitely needs to improve. It needs to improve in efficiency. All right, that's what I think.
Columnist Carol Malone, we've got journalist and broadcaster Benjamin Butterworth, and of course the former chairman of the Tory party, Sir Jake Berry. Carol, I'll throw it over to you. I mean, this is it not, I suppose, quite an obvious indication that deterrents do work?
Completely. We know they do. You know, what Trump is doing, he's not just chucking them out, he's making deterrents for them to stop coming in. You know, already he's got mass deportations and arrests happening. He's got troops on Mexican border. He's going to put more there. He's got, he's got so much going on. He's using military planes to get them out of the country. It's incredible what he's doing. And he's talking tough, and they're not coming. You mentioned that figure of 80%. 4,000, something like 4,800 came, where previously 2 years before it had been 225,000 came. So yes, deterrence work, and you know he's using.
I agree, deterrence work. If there's no incentive to come, they're not going to come. The incentive to Britain is, well, you do get put up in some cases a good home. You are going to be, presented with that. Probably fed and watered as well, because it's inhumane not to feed people. So that'll be in place. That is an incentive when you look at where they're coming from as well. So I agree. You've got to desensitize. You've got to take away the incentive to come here in the first place. It works. That's the deterrent.
Using his border patrol force, whatever it's called out there, to stop them coming in. We're using our border patrol as a taxi service. It is astonishing.
There's all this talk about conscription, right? And I'm seeing a load of articles from people who I think are actually quite patriotic, who are saying they wouldn't want to fight in the military for Keir Starmer. I guarantee you they do a bit of national service in the Channel, Jake.
Well, to stop people coming in. But look, what we've learned from these figures is that, hand-wringing, the politics of the left, whether that be the Conservative left or the Labour left, do not work. We now know what works. It's get tough, put the disincentives in place, make sure you use your military, grab people as soon as they come in the country and send them somewhere else, in Trump's case to the threat of going to Guantanamo Bay. That stops people invading our country. That is what the British public should be calling on Keir Starmer to do. He said he had a plan to smash the gangs. Sorry, that's not enough. You need to go beyond that. You need to have all those disincentives in place.
We know what works.
I agree in terms of you need to have a deterrent. You need to utilise your military. I also agree with the fact that you do need to, smash the gangs at source. So that's the first part, I would say, is, you need to be able to tackle it at source. But concurrent to that, definitely utilise the military. And if we're looking at the whole grand scheme of things, guys, you don't need thousands of military people at borders to do this, all right? We've already got elements of the military actively doing this type of stuff elsewhere in the world anyway. So what would I do? Well, simply put, I would put a couple of boats of Royal Marines in the Channel, patrolling that, and just rotate them through it. The lads would probably enjoy that anyway, actually doing something meaningful. And what do I mean by that? A couple of orca boats, 6 people on each. So we've got a couple of sections of lads, really, a couple of sections of 6 actively patrolling. Spot a boat. They do this anyway. They do this anyway in the Indian Ocean via warships. Send one boat of Royal Marines out, tackle the source, boom, done, that boat's taken out, take the people in, take them back. Happy days. Wasted money. You've taken away the incentive straight away because you've put a military boat there. So we don't need thousands of individuals patrolling our shores and patrolling the borders in that regard. It's not that difficult, guys, really, in that regard.
Because we know what works. It's Marines at the border and it's the Navy in the Channel, no?
Well, let's just put this in context. The first Trump term had the lowest deportation rate since 2008. Barack Obama deported far more in both his terms.
How many do you think
Joe Biden deported more in his term, and the deportation rate is about the same as Biden's so far.
How do you think? Well,
they stopped coming, though.
He's only been in for a few weeks. Biden did 1.4 in his first term. Obama did 2.6 in his first term. At this rate,
big difference.
But let's say if he carries on at this rate, by the end of the year, they'll be back to 1967 rates of coming in, which would be absolutely astonishing. It's, a lot of these, what he's doing is very unpalatable to the left, both here and in America. But you have to be unpalatable because a lot of people, this country is famed for its compassion and its caring, but it's been taking the mick out of now, and we have to stop that.
Yeah, I think we need to get a fine line with this. It's we need to still be compassionate, all right? I know that for some people watching, oh, forget about the compassion. No, we can't. We have to have a little bit of sense. If you haven't got sense enough to see that you need compassion when dealing with people in general, then you're a bit crazy, personally. So compassion is key. Have compassion, but have rules. Stick to the rules, okay? We need to have rules. You can't shouldn't be able to go anywhere illegally, across the board, all right? That's my opinion. Nowhere.
People are abusing us. We're having hordes of young people from sub-Saharan Africa who come here because they want a better life. I don't blame them, but we can't let them in. It's not our job to give them a better life.
No, I was just going to say, I mean...
That's interesting, that. Should it be our moral responsibility to be able to feel that we need to give those less fortunate a better life? It's interesting, that. My wife came here in search for a better life with her parents, all right? They already were pretty good individuals. They both had careers back home, police officer, nurse. So they were doing all right anyway, but they wanted better. And the route to better was to, one, it cost, they had to pay. Two, they had to have a right to work within the UK. They did. And they came legitimately, having spent thousands of pounds and actually getting accepted as well through those processes. What do the processes mean for them back in the day? Well, were you a safe person? Did you have a violent past, a criminal past? Are you professionally qualified? They had to meet a lot of different things, and they did. I think that needs to be in place, needs to be more robust. Can't just have that system in place and then on the other hand let people illegally into the country, can we? It contradicts each other.
The American border is ridiculous, the border at the southern border, because, well, just to point out, he didn't build a wall and Mexico didn't pay for it last time, and there still isn't a complete wall, which is absolutely insane.
82% down on land crossings and 99% down.
And Mexico's paying for the flights, as is Colombia, to deport people. Being tough works, and it's all very well, you know, Britain is not tough. Why do people build themselves up in France, wait in Calais to come to Britain? It's because we are far more generous when it comes to giving people benefits, housing, access to healthcare, even than the French. France is a moderately, a moderately good country to live in, I'm sure, but immigrants don't want to stay there. Immigrants don't want to stay there because they do not get the free ride they get in Britain.
That's actually quite interesting, that. Why do they come from France? Well, France has obviously got less of an incentive to stay there. If you've been to France, it's quite a nice place, all right? South France, beautiful place, lovely culture, lovely history, food, you name it. Why do they not want to stay there? It's less welcoming for immigrants. It's less hospitable. It's less compassionate, probably. It's less giving, all right? You came here illegally. There's nothing for you in the system. So that's why they're coming here. And they are risking life and limb for that. Yeah, it's a tricky one, this.
But I'll put this to you. Trump had one term. Benjamin points out that the deportations probably weren't high enough and didn't do everything.
They were lower than the Democrats.
Fine. But he's got back in, right? And he's actually doing what he told the voters he was going to do. The Tories didn't do that. Do you think maybe you should have done things like... If Sajid Javid had turned the first boat back, we wouldn't be here, would we?
Well, who knows if that would have been the case, but we should have been tougher, and that's why I've consistently called for Britain to pull out of the ECHR, when I was a government minister and a backbench Conservative MP, because Britain has to be able to control her own destiny. And if you believe for 1 second that Keir Starmer, a multi-millionaire who's made his millions from being a human rights lawyer, with his Attorney General, one of the champions of every cause that's against Britain, is going to rip up the ECHR in favour of delivering what the British people really want, then I'm sure you believe in fairies.
Trump has proved one very important thing, that securing your borders is easy if you have the will to do it.
Yeah, correct.
Keir Starmer does not have the will to do it, and that's going to be the problem.
I want to know what you were thinking at home, or if you're listening on your radio or whatever. Get in touch, OK?
Yeah, that is interesting. You've got to have the will to do it. If you haven't got the will to do it, you're not going to do it. It goes for anything in life.
Hey, should we put the Navy in the Channel? Would you back it if Keir Starmer did what Trump has just done, which is use his Navy and use his military to police the border?
Yeah, put a comment below for that, actually. Should we use the military to secure our border here in the UK? If you're an American watching, do you agree with Trump using the military to secure your border? Let me know in the comments, troops. I'm interested to hear your thoughts.
Benjamin, do you think our military would do it? Because this has been one of the arguments against it, which has been like, oh, there's no way the Navy wouldn't want to tow the boats back to France. They wouldn't want to do that. Of course I think they would. If they don't, they shouldn't be in the flipping Navy, should they?
Well, it's not an option to tow the boats to France because France won't take them. And because we chose to leave the European Union, it is much harder to get those agreements. They don't exist as they automatically did in the EU. That was our choice. That's why these numbers have gone up.
Agreement with Mexico, what he did was he said, we're going to absolutely hammer you.
Well, hang on. Even if you tow them back to France and then France says no, then they'll just come back to the UK. All you're doing is increasing the cost, increasing the chaos. Look, one of the reasons there's more people in the hotels today is because the rate of processing and refusing asylum applications is double what it was a year ago, and now there's been a rise in appeals.
In that case,
the backlog has gone up.
Correct.
Yes, because there's a rise in appeals. The number of appeals has gone from 5,000 to 42,000.
So what would Trump do in this situation? Trump would say you can't appeal 3, 4, 5 times. The Nigerian lady who ultimately joined a terrorist group, it was her 8th appeal. Yeah. Trump wouldn't let that happen, would he?
Of course he wouldn't. And actually, while I do agree with Ben, is you cannot turn these boats around in the Channel. That shouldn't be the job of the British Navy. Number one, they shouldn't get in the Channel in the first place because we're paying the French hundreds of millions to stop them on the beaches. Seems to me a good sort of Stanley knife could slash some of these dinghies, stop them coming over. But number two, the point at which...
Sorry, are you saying that migrants should drown? Because that's what would happen if you did that.
French police...
No, just explain what you just said.
Okay, well, let me then.
See, this is where these arguments get a little bit too personal for the people who are, conversing with each other. He's not saying he wants them to drown. Like, he didn't say that at all, did he? Didn't mention anything of the sort. Come on, that's really stupid.
We're saying if the French police see a dinghy on the beach about to leave to bring someone over to the UK, they should slash
I'm sure they do that.
They don't.
They don't really.
But actually...
Yeah, they should stop them at source. Actively having people patrolling those beaches, be pretty easy to do, wouldn't it? Yeah, boat on the beach, loads of people who look like they're going to cram up on there. Yeah, let's stop the boat. Simple as that. Pretty simple.
The place we should be turning them round is as soon as their feet touch British soil, they should be turned around, sent somewhere else, whether it's the Chagos Islands, Diego Garcia, Rwanda, wherever it is, turn them round, because that's what Trump is doing. He's not turning people around on the border. He's turning them round as soon as they arrive in America, and that is the disincentive that's seen this 80% fall. And we could do it here in Britain.
Answer me this. What is the deterrent under this Labour government to not come here illegally? What is the deterrent?
Well, first of all, Rwanda wasn't a deterrent. Because
what's the...
Well, it never happened.
Just to point out... Rwanda never happened. What are you talking about?
Well, they spent long enough talking about it.
Labour stopped it at every turn. And then it went to the Lords and they stopped it there. Labour didn't let this happen. If they had, it would have worked.
No, nonsense. We spent hundreds of millions of pounds, and then the only about 5 migrants that left because we paid them $3,000 each.
Deterrent now? There isn't one.
There isn't one.
The deterrent is saying that you're not going to be able to get a life here if you're not a real migrant. If you're not...
That's not a deterrent because, well, it's not working, is it? That isn't a deterrent because they're still here in record numbers, getting housed and fed and everything else. So, yeah, that's just stupid.
A real refugee. That's the real...
But there was a law, Ben. There was a law that said if you enter the country illegally, you won't get asylum. The Labour Party reversed that law. It was one of the first things they did.
But these people aren't entering illegally if they are genuine refugees. And many of these countries don't have a real route to get into the country, as a former Tory MP pointed out.
Why don't they get a Ryanair flight from Albania for 50 quid rather than spending $5,000 to cross the channel? Of course they're entering.
No one wants a Ryanair flight.
I just thought it's worth pointing out, okay? Today, the news, 82% land crossings down in the southern border, 99% down on the Darien Gap, up here, up. Contrast, isn't it?
Right, so it's working in the United States. Might not be a popular opinion. People might not like it fully, but it's working, all right? A solution, Meha? Yeah, I think it might... Something like that would work here. We'd have to go about it a little bit more... How can I put this? We'd have to be a little bit morally considerate. A little bit more morally considerate, I would say. Yeah, it's a tricky one, this. Military would work. We don't need to see loads of troops on the shore. A couple of boats of Marines and Navy vessels somewhere. But we really do need to stop it coming from source, i.e. the boats, stop them from launching in France. What's your thoughts, guys?